Well, howdy doody, and hello there to you, D. This is urbanisation. This is our unit on urbanisation. Urbanisation is the growth of cities. Cities grow by natural increase, which is babies, and migration, people moving from rural and regional areas to your city, or people might move from another country to your city. So that's urbanisation. Some learning goals for you. You're going to know what urbanisation is, and you're going to be able to interpret a map. I'm going to have a world urbanisation map for you. And yeah, again, to interpret that. Okay, what is urbanisation? As I mentioned, it's the growth in the size and the population of cities. So not just the growth in how many people live there, but it's the growth in how big they are, right? So you got when people say, "Oh, that's a big city," it can mean two things. It can mean lots of people live there, it's large, spread out. Okay, so like some cities might be really large but not have that much population. Some cities might be really populated but not be that large. So Auckland, for example, got 1 million people, still fairly big, but it's massively spread out. Whereas like some of the cities in Asia, like I don't know, Hong Kong, huge population, but it's densely packed. Yeah, heaps and heaps of high-rise buildings. So why do cities grow? As mentioned, natural increase, that's the people who already live in the city, having babies, and people migrating from rural areas. Fun fact, cities have been around for 5,000 years. But urbanisation rates have increased massively. So in 1800, about 200 years ago, it was only 2% of us lived in cities. Now it's 57%. And when I started teaching this like 5 years ago, that number was 50%. So the world is becoming more and more urbanised. Everyone is leaving the countryside and all moving to the city. In Australia, we've got way more than 57% of people in urban areas. I think it's more like 89%. Check this graph out. So it's a graph. First thing to do is to say, what's it about? You can tell by reading the title, it's about urbanisation over the last 50 years. It's a line graph. It's got dates along the bottom, so it's probably showing change over time. Sure enough, these are the urbanisation rates. And remember I told you that the world is at 57%, see? Roughly 57% there. But look, within that, so the average across the whole world is 57, but some countries are way more. Look at Japan. Japan's up at 90%. Australia's at 89, so just below Japan. So some places are really urbanised and others are not so much. Here's a little animation. I hope this works. It's the growth of Melbourne. Look at that. Awesome. That's the last one that's being projected. Melbourne has spread massively. Right. As mentioned, urbanisation is uneven. Some places are still very rural. Look at those places. Papua New Guinea, only 1 in 10 people lives in a city. Whereas other places are very urban. Hong Kong and Singapore, they are city-states, right? The whole country is one city. So that's 100% of their people live in that city. Coastal cities are most common. Obviously, coastal cities and cities on rivers, because they were, most cities are set up in historic times, and you can get food from the ocean, and you can travel to and from that city easily across the water. Here's another fun fact. Almost everybody lives within just 10% of the land on Earth. A lot of land, isn't able to have people live on it because it's mountains, but here you go. Here is a comparison of urbanisation rates in different countries. So there's Australia. This is in 1980, so we're more urbanised than that now. It was at 85 in 1980, we're at 89% now. Yep. Japan's also way more urban now than it used to be in 1980, but that was a comparison from 1980. I wish I'd got a graph that was more recent. Anyway, here's a map showing coastal cities compared to inland cities. Doesn't actually, from there, it doesn't really look like there's heaps more coastal cities than inland cities, but there are, and they're bigger. Most of those inland cities will be on rivers as well, bear that in mind. Yeah. Okay, here's your activity. There's a map. Who might use that map? Who might need to know how urban different countries are? Why might they need that information? What could you, if you know how urban different countries are, who might need that? Maybe an international organization. What might they do with that information? How do you think the information was gathered? How did they work out how urbanized everywhere is? And finally, I'm big on you practicing your geographic language. So using geographic language, so talking about using the names of the continents, using north, south, east, west, saying inland, coastal, along the equator, all those kind of words to describe where the least urbanized parts of the world are. Least urbanized right here, and a little bit here, and a little bit here. So how could you describe those locations? That's your activity. Let's watch a video on the history of urbanization. Excitement. I thought I would talk while this one's happening. So this is a timeline that moves along. It's showing. This is, yeah. So there you go. The first cities were in Sumer in the Middle East there. So the yellow dot is another city. Yep. Here we go. Mostly cities in the Middle East. So this is still, 5,000 years ago here. All the cities in the Middle East, and then more and more cities in the Middle East. As we move along, you're probably going to start seeing some cities in Egypt would be my guess. Yeah, there you go. Memphis is in Egypt. Heliopolis is also in Egypt. So there we go. Look how the cities are spreading from that starting point in the Middle East. Now we're getting up to 2000 BC. Here we go. Still mostly located just in that one area here. Oh, maybe we're going to start seeing, there you go, we start seeing some cities in China after the Shang dynasty. Still mostly in the Middle East. The Olmec civilization, nice. Troy, you remember that from the ancient Greek studies. Now we've got cities. See how all those cities are spread along a line? That means they're all a similar climate, yeah? So it's a good climate for cities, obviously. There we go. Now we've got some cities over here in Central America. These will be Olmec cities. Now we've got one in South America. Now it's really starting to explode, yeah? Cities all over the show. And now we're getting Alexander the Great created a lot of cities. Still no cities down there in Australia, though. That's going to be a while off. Now we're in AD, or CE, as we say. Roman Empire founded heaps of cities, started heaps of cities in Europe. So it's still a big line though, right? And now we're starting to see heaps of cities from India and China, which have the most number of megacities in the modern world. I think that the darker colours mean the city is bigger as well. Yeah, so yellow is a small city, and orange ones are bigger, and red ones are even bigger. Look at that massive amount of cities coming into them in the Middle Ages there. Starting to get a few in Africa, just a couple though. Then look at that, an explosion of cities in the Middle Ages in Europe. Just heaps and heaps. Still seeing quite a lot in Central Asia there, in India. Got some cities cranking in Japan now. And now we're getting into proper Middle Ages. This is getting exciting. We're getting close to the end here, people. Oh yeah. Columbus arrives and sets up heaps of cities in Mexico. Killed all the people who were already living there, unfortunately. Now we've got the Russian Empire, and they are having lots of cities. See, and now, there we go, we've got Melbourne and Sydney. Australia's finally on there, and now look, in the modern world, look, in the last 100 years, boom, everywhere, and they are all the cities. Nice. Here's another video for you. It's just a normal one. It's not a weird timeline one like that last one. Urbanisation and the rise of the megacity.
In 1950, New York and Tokyo were the only so-called megacities, cities with more than 10 million inhabitants. By 1980, these were joined by Mexico City, Sao Paulo, and Osaka. In 2010, there were over 20 megacities spanning almost every continent. Today, there are 32 megacities. Urbanisation is happening faster than at any time in human history. Asia accounts for over half of today's megacities. By 2030, nearly 9% of the world's population will live in 41 megacities. But it's in Africa where some of the most rapid urbanisation will take place in the future.
Very simple reflection activity today, folks. I want you to summarize today's lesson in exactly 12 words. Thanks for taking part. Keep it real.